Welcome to the Leadership Launchpad Podcast, the Legacy Edition, where conscious leaders unite to unlock their highest potential so collectively we can change the way the game is being played. Welcome to the Leadership Launchpad Podcast, changing the way this game is being played. And that's right, folks. We are still at the top of a mountain in Costa Rica, Tracey and I working on our conscious leadership inner game, teeing up those intentions for 2026. But whilst we're up there, and we've asked you all to be working on your vision for 2026, your intentions for this year of ascension in your conscious leadership, we again asked our back-end team to put together a resource to help with that inner work that we've asked you all to do. And so this time we've had our team cultivate a highlight reel of all the top experts that we had in on the show in 2025, talking about their predictions for 2026 in terms of where we're going to need to be in our development as leaders. So some of our best experts, best advice in terms of their predictions for the year ahead and what that's going to require from us as leaders. We hope that this inspirational highlight reel brings you the resources you need, right? To really start to get inspired to set the tone for the year ahead. So buckle up. We hope you enjoy this clip, and we will see you, Tracey and I, back here next week. And as somebody who's leading that ecosystem, right, for the purposes of innovation and research across Canada right now, what are you seeing is coming down this pipeline in 2026 and beyond? What are your predictions?
Yeah, there's a few things. So one is we have an incredible company in Ottawa called Telesat. Telesat is probably 2 years away from delivering light speed. Light speed is a low Earth orbiting satellite technology, and I'm laser focused. And this is just one of many things that we're looking at, but laser focused on applying LEO's technologies to support northern communities, to support Canada's sovereignty of the North, and to open up markets. I mean, we've got this massive country. We have the economy of California, and we've got the landmass, which is bigger than Brazil. And that comes with challenges, but it comes with a ton of opportunity. Like the resources that we have as a country are massive. Telesat is actually in a really good position to open it up because their flavor of low Earth orbiting satellite technology is very high speed. It's close to the Earth, so the latency is actually not bad. It's not fiber, but it's pretty close to fiber.
I really loved, just the energy. And I think that's really important to take forward. Words like curiosity, exploring, experimenting, like they are fun things. They are how you learn, right? So I think I would really love to see more leaders taking that big breath, that leap of faith, and taking that energy with them, really role model, sharing with their teams, what they've tried, what they're curious about, what they're seeing, what they're hearing, and just trying a different style, just looking, as Trace said earlier, like that adaptability, like just stepping out of that zone, a bit of courage, and just even if you just try one different thing to get that energy moving, that's what I would love to see in 2026.
Well, I guess my final thought is the advice that I'm trying to live myself, which is every day, I'm a morning person now more than I used to be. So I got to spend time with a blank piece of paper and ask myself, what does success look like for me today? All those hard questions. What do I want to focus on? What are some of my distractions that I need to avoid? What do I need to do to get myself in the headspace that I need to be in to have a good day? And who are the people that I'm connecting with? Where might their heads be at? Try and get into their headspace a little bit so I'm not projecting my own stuff on them, and try and be as conscious and as intentional as I can. And then when I inevitably go off the rails early afternoon or start to, something will happen that will deviate me from my plan that I hatched at 6:30 in the morning, to find that way to get myself back in that headspace. And to have mercy on myself when I blow it, because I do. But that's simple practice. That's my practice. Everyone's got their own thing. Some people meditate, walk, whatever. So pick your thing, but you can't say that you're too busy to spend 15 minutes to kind of get your shit together about what does success look like for me today, and ask those hard questions. That's what drives self-awareness. That's what drives conscious leadership. And it's boring, and it's every single day waiting for you. And when you don't do it, when I don't do it, it has an impact. So that's my coaching to myself, as much as what I often talk about with people that I'm trying to be helpful for.
We want to leave you with so for athletes, right? I'll just take the same analogy and I'll say with athletes, we want to help you elevate your game to a point where you're going to get onto certain radars. If you're looking to get ID'd at the next level, if you're looking to move on to the next rank, we are unequivocally here to help you to be able to do that. By the way, scouts, coaches at the next level, the kids that are investing in this type of work, they are interested in. They want to know who you are holistically as a person. A stat sheet is a stat sheet. Are they a good kid, right? Do they have a sense of self? Where is their confidence at? Can you give us examples of times where you faced defeat and how did you bounce back? All that stuff matters. Here's the thing. A very small percentage of those kids are going to move on and play at the next level. And all of a sudden at 17, 18, 19 years old, they're like, wait a minute, who am I? So you bring in the anxieties, the depressions, the lack of identity. How do I get on to the next stage of my life? That's a big part of the problem that, you and I aspire to solve, which is let's give these athletes, let's give these kids not just skills and tools that they're going to apply in their given sport, but let's help them leverage that over a lifetime so that when they do step out of the sport, and I got bad news, everybody at some point steps out of the sport, that you do have to go back to finding maybe a new sense of self, because what you've identified with for so many years is being technically trained, physically trained for decades of your life. And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, it's a big, scary world out there, right? And then who am I? Who am I beyond the equipment, beyond the uniform, right? And how am I going to self-lead into the rest of my life?
Do you see a lot more consciousness showing up on this play?
I think we're in a neck and neck race right now. We're either hitting bottom or or going deeper. For me, I remember a spiritual teacher I had. He said, this is second grade here, and so do the best you can to graduate and help others to graduate, but don't be attached to changing, second grade to fourth grade or something. And so I handle it from that sort of perspective. If you've got attachments, you're going to have fear and pain. That's kind of the Buddhist 101. And so, for me, it's doing the best I can and helping others who are ready to do the best they can. And, I've got great grandsons who I'm trying to create, a better world for, and great grandsons and great granddaughters throughout the world, better world for. But you have to just do the best you can, and you can't be fearful that it won't happen, because then you're falling right into the trap with everybody else.
I've seen that definitely a couple of years ago, but very recently I see an opposite trend again, and that is something that I'm a bit anxious and honestly and very concerned about, because it is something that is making is putting all of those at risk. And so if you've seen, we've seen many of these tech organizations go through layoffs, and sometimes multiple rounds of layoffs. And that has created a culture in some where people aren't willing to take the risk anymore of showing or of having a discussion about those goals, or trying to use, either consciously or sometimes not very intentional, but it still happens, that are sometimes using the fear of layoffs and the fear of, oh, AI is taking our jobs if we aren't moving fast, if we are creating that urgency. You see that in many, again, in some tech worlds. I mean, the news trend is 996, right? Working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on 6 days a week. And especially in San Francisco, that's not just one company anymore. It's many. There's statistics that show that lunchtime restaurants now have, in downtown San Francisco, suddenly have much higher revenue during Saturdays, because it's an expectation now to work more Saturdays. So again, I've seen that a couple of years ago, for sure, the trend to being a more vulnerable leader and being more inclusive. But I see at the moment, again, the opposite again, which makes me, again, sad and anxious, because I don't think it's a very healthy and sustainable way for this tech. Founder mode is another one of those trends that got popular a year ago or so, where it became modern again for a founder to be completely micromanaging. And so look, I get that sometimes that feels great for a founder. Oh, I am the one that rescues this. I go deep into every topic. But how it feels for someone like a manager to be, oh no, I'm taking the steering wheel here and just let me do this now. That's just not creating a very healthy culture. So again, I do hope that this is only a short phase, and that we will go back to a much more mindful organizations soon.
What is the counsel that you are giving your leaders right now? And do you agree that conscious leadership is how we're going to rewrite this playbook in terms of how this game is about to change?
Well, you can't change something you're not aware of. So absolutely. And, so I'm a philosopher at heart, if you haven't been able to tell.
We got that.
There are so many nuances to lead. Like leadership is filled with paradoxes. So you can't define it. And I can name a few paradoxes, but knowing these paradoxes. So if I talk about a paradox, I'm talking about a tension that naturally arises when people get together and their diverse gifts and perspectives engage in a confluence. You're going to have conflict. You're going to have tension. And so, for instance, here's a simple paradox. Frankness, let's put it on a graph. Frankness, the y-axis, and
ambiguity.
Well, let's call it. When you're saying things in a way that they can be heard, you're conscious of. So if you're high on frankness and low on empathy, let's just call it empathy, but it's more like tact, right? Then you're going to be blunt. But if you're if you're high on tact and low on frankness, you're going to be evasive. So you want to balance. You want to be able to be high on frankness and high on tact, so that you can engage in a way that when they're necessary, you can move and you don't get off the point. And a leader's tact is high on tact and low on frankness when they can't believe they've said it so many times and nobody really got it. Well, maybe they didn't say it with the kind of frankness that people would get that this is damn important.
So
right?
true.
And so there's another one too. There's another tension that goes with that, is the difference between enforcement and empathy, right? So empathy is, I'm connected with you. Compassion, I get what you're up to. I want to support you in it. Enforcement is, look, there are certain rules and regulations that are just, you got to uphold them. And there's, your commitments, etc. So you enforce. If you're over on enforcement and low on empathy, or low on compassion, if you will, then what you're going to end up with is you're going to be dominating.
Yeah.
And if you're high on compassion and low on enforcement, then you're going to be wishy-washy. You're going to
Country club culture.
That's right. It'll be run on personality. So just think if you're high on empathy, high on tact, low on frankness, low on enforcement, and high on compassion. Now what you got is that's the beginning of what I call the Bermuda Triangle, where projects go in and results don't come out, right? And so it's knowing those tensions, it's easier to zone in on what's wanted and needed, right? I've identified, we have at least 12 that we work with actively with our clients, but we've identified about 20 of them. And they're natural. You got to have some way to put language on them. So it's paradoxical. These things, they seem like they're not related or that they're opposites, but they're actually interdependent. They're intertwined. And our ability to navigate them has a lot to do with the breadth and depth that we can communicate with our team.
The only thing that is constant is change. And so if we understand how to open up those resources, right? And this is the abundance mentality or mindset. What we're really talking about there is it's not an intellectual exercise, right? We very much will feel a sense of trust starting to develop inside of us. And the more trust we can accrue inside of us in terms of our sense of truth and knowingness, then that starts to give us the resources required to actually be creative rather than force our way through, right? Rinse and repeating, actually flow our way through in a creative or co-creative way. That is the point of the exercise, I feel like, that we're all going through right now, right? We all know the world is changing, and thus the way we lead ourselves and lead others needs to change, but that requires adaptive strategies.
Try to inspire people to really show up to the challenge in terms of doing the practice, because even just this week I was to the test of that. And as a leader, we are responsible for showing up for our people. That is what we signed up for. And I truly believe that, sometimes it can be scary for whatever triggers we might be having and emotions and reactions, but it is our responsibility. If we are leaders, and we are leaders, everybody is a leader. Either you're leading your family or you're leading a team, or even within a group of friends, we all look up to each other, right? In one way or another, and more some than others. But, I just want to make a, call out to really kind of look into that space for yourself, because showing up for others and having an impact positively on their life or their challenges or their uncertainty that they're seeing, that is what leadership is.